Thank you for joining us to the DADAH Friday noon lecture. My name is Noriko Yuasa, Associate Chair of the Department of Art, Design, and Art History. I'm joining today from Japan. It's 3 a.m. right now. I wish I can share the view from my hotel, but it's dark outside. But it is great to see familiar faces over there right now. I'm glad that you can join us. And where is everyone is joining here today? Can you write on the chat? I'd love to know where you are. And if you are in visual art building, tell me which room you are in. I'm just going to imagine where you are. I see. And today, I would love to introduce Jenn Satterly, who wears many hats. And she is CEO of All Secure Foundation, which serves special operation combat warrior and their families healed from invisible wounds of war. Founder of Virago, which serves an empowered spouse of combat warriors dealing with the struggle on the home front. She is author of Arsenal Hope, and she graduated from Webster University Advertising and Marketing Communication in 1999. And she worked as a designer at Core Advertising, where I met her first. I see some familiar faces from Core today. Hi, Kristen. And her journey is very impressive, and I don't want to spoil her lecture, so I will stop here. And Jenn is a talented designer, illustrator, photographer, and film director, and entrepreneur, and one of the good people I met in St. Louis. I'm very happy to introduce her to Webster community today. And I wanted to thank the faculty speaker committee for their support for this lecture. Please help me welcome Jenn Satterly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Noriko, you're going to need a good nap after this. Thank you so much for introducing me all the way from Japan. Arigato. Really appreciate it. I've known you probably 25 years now. It's been a while. When you said I graduated in 99, I'm like, oh my gosh, probably most people on this lecture were born right around then or maybe after. So things are getting strange for me. Yeah, as Noriko said, I'm currently serving as the CEO and the co-founder of All Secure Foundation. And like Noriko said, we serve special operation warriors. So Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Army Rangers, Delta Force. We serve them as they come back home in dealing with their war trauma. Not only are we helping the service members, we're helping the whole family in healing from secondary war trauma. So how did I end up here from designer at Webster University? Well, really from being an advocate first for my husband, who I met in 2013. He served in Delta Force for 20 years, the Army for 20. And had a lot of trauma, a lot of untreated complex trauma from his time in service. He was involved in the Battle of Mogadishu, which they made the movie Black Hawk Down about. So that was his very first combat mission. The place that I worked at Core played that movie a lot. So when I met him, I was familiar with that movie, but not very familiar with the stresses of war or really anything that had to do with military or special operations. So I found myself in a completely unique world, challenged with many uncertainties, and really just got to work in 2013, meeting him, knowing that he had become nearly a veteran suicide statistic many times through his own challenges. And at that time, I also in 2013 started working along special operations. So at that time, I had a small design studio. I did film photography design. And I was asked to film basically a TV commercial or trailer for a special operations project these guys were involved in as kind of their side project. And when I got there, did the project, honestly, didn't want to do the project. I had a lot of great things going on at the time in fashion and sports marketing, and was pretty busy and said, no, not interested. No, not interested. And then I was voluntold by a client of mine saying, hey, I've already put you on as director of this project, so I guess you're going. That project changed my life completely and utterly. Not only did I meet my husband during that project, it completely changed the trajectory of my entire career. I was invited along on a special operation mission. So these happen stateside. They're called RMTs, or realistic military training exercises. If you imagine a movie like Black Hawk Down or any kind of war film, our warriors have to practice what they do overseas. They have to do it stateside in safe places. But nonetheless, there's Black Hawks flying in, they're fast roping, there's explosions. They're trying to mimic whatever they're doing overseas as close as possible as they can here in order to keep people alive. So what did I do? I said, hey, I did some work with St. Louis Cardinals. I've done some work where I've actually watched people review and process information via film. I said, do you guys ever film these big exercises that I was invited to go and watch? And they were like, no, we don't film training exercises. And I said, well, why not? Because here's the thing, the St. Louis Cardinals record every single pitch, every single play. They have a little dungeon room in the basement, probably at the new stadium. It's much nicer. But they review every single play. And in fact, Albert Pujols was kind of famous for sitting down there for hours and hours before every single game. And he would review every single pitch that the pitcher he was going up against. And I said, why aren't we doing this in the military and our special operation forces? This is not like if you're going to hit the ball or not, this is life or death for our amazing soldiers. So first time I went on a mission training, started recording, filming. They work at night. So I had night vision. I never worked with night vision before. There was a million challenges. I felt like I conquered that challenge, only to have one of the commanders walk up to me and tell me to delete my entire card. That happened the first few times I started working in special operations. It was something that frankly wasn't being done. It was new. Anytime you approach any industry with something new and kind of something that's different than the status quo, you get challenged. So I was challenged quite often as I started. But what happened was some of the command teams in the Navy SEALs said, we love this footage because we're seeing our guys go left when they're supposed to go right. We're seeing how they're doing infill incorrectly. We're seeing how they're doing explosive charge incorrectly. This footage is going to save people's life. Great. I just got myself a 3-year contract working in special operations, going on all of these large scale missions all around the world. And it was challenging. It completely turned my world upside down. Things that I had preconceived notions about military or operations. I realized I didn't know what I didn't know, which was a lot in this world. I was the girl that had a little notebook with me all the time to write acronyms because I could never understand what anyone was saying. And then I got teased about it for quite a while too. Like, what are you doing? I'm writing acronyms. I don't understand what you guys are saying. They're like, oh, none of us know what we're saying either. It's fine. But I always took my job seriously, and every client that I took under my belt, I literally kind of became family because you become so intimate with your clients. You get to know them so well. You frankly develop a relationship with them. So during this time, these 3 years that I'm working embedding as combat camera, essentially, I started seeing all the challenges that our warriors were facing, yet none of them were talking about it. So I'd have a SEAL who's 26 and another SEAL who's maybe 35. Both went to the same combat mission, both lost a couple friends in that mission. Nobody's talking about it as they come home. So just like we do as creatives, we see a hole, we see an opportunity, and our thinking outside of the box creativity comes to play. And so I said, listen, I'm going to start asking these guys, what do you need? How can I help? Where can we support? During those couple of years I worked, unfortunately, there were a lot of suicides that I was seeing in the community as well. Not only did my husband nearly commit suicide, but several of his friends did in this time period, and several of the people that I was working alongside of. So I knew there was a problem. I knew there was a very big problem, and I wanted to be part of that solution. So in 2016, quit my job, left. Well, I thought I left design, film, photography behind and started a nonprofit. Did I know anything about starting a nonprofit? No. No idea. I never worked for one before. I never served in any capacity in a nonprofit, but I knew that's what I wanted to do next. And I knew that everything was figure outable. And one of the great things about being a designer in the creative arts is you're an amazing problem solver. It's part of your job every single day is to solve problems and come up with creative, new and inventive ideas. So I had enough experience behind me to be a little bit nervous, but knew I could take it on. By 2017, we had our nonprofit up and going and running. And that's where I'm at today, doing a lot of lectures, education, speaking engagements. We hold retreats and programs. But where did I start? I didn't start here. Like we said, I'm a Webster alum, and I didn't even start in the design department. I was a Marcom major. So I thought for sure, well, actually, let's back up. Freshman year, I was an archaeology and anthropology major. So switched again when I went to Webster, started there in my junior year. After I had discovered advertising, I thought, this is so amazing and cool. You know, you get to meet all these different clients, you get to work in the creative arts. This is what I want to do. And I knew Webster had an amazing program. I was also interested in film and photography, so kind of all of the creative arts. And Webster took great care of me. In fact, I know I wouldn't be here today without the amazing professors and teachers that I had at Webster who really helped guide me, encourage me, and sometimes challenge me. So I'm a Marcom major, and I get into Webster and I said, I'm going to be an account executive. That's what I want to do. I'm going to be the direct relationship between the client and the creative. I've got some sales skills. I could do this. So what happens? That summer, Webster's great about this, by the way, the internship opportunities, take them all, every bit that you can, because you will learn so much by actually stepping into a workforce place. And that's exactly what happened to me. Everything changed when I had that internship. I tried out for DMB&B, which was Darcy, Macy's, Benton and Bowles. They were a huge advertising agency in the 90s. Well, actually way back before the 90s. They kind of petered out in 2000, I think. But up until then, this was a major player in the advertising world. Internationally, they had clients like Anheuser-Busch. In fact, Budweiser Frogs came out of the department right above my head. Taste the Rainbow, Skittles. So a ton of really big campaigns were coming out of St. Louis at that time. They said there were 1,000 people that apply for this internship and we take 10. And so, you know, I was really excited, and a lot of people, in fact, nobody else from Webster applied because they said, listen, this is a lengthy interview process. You have to write all these essays. You have to go through a series of 5 different interviews. And by the way, they're going to send out 990 rejection letters. So I guess my ambition and maybe a little bit of arrogance said, I've got this, I can do this, because you know what, if you go into something with a losing attitude, you'll be right. If you go in and with a successful mindset, most time you're gonna be right. And even if you don't make it, even if you don't try, the greatest failure is the failure to try. Always, always, always go for your goal. Always go for your dream, no matter how big or insurmountable, or no matter who's telling you it's not possible, or maybe you should try something else, or it's too hard or too big. The only voice you need to listen to is the one inside. And the one inside told me to go for it. So I went through the interview process. I was taken on a team of 10, account executive, that's your role. I was working along other designers, copywriters, and a media buyer. In about a week in, I decided this isn't for me. I couldn't believe it. I didn't like the meetings I was sitting in, excuse me, as an account executive. I just didn't feel like it was the fit for me. And I remember my mom saying, you've worked there for a week. Like, maybe you should give it the summer before you make another decision. I think in her mind, she's like, God, please don't switch majors again. Please, you know, here you are. You've got 1 year left, 1 year left, just finish school. So I said, okay, Mom, obviously I'm going to finish the internship, but I found that I was hanging out in the creative department all the time. I was getting to know the art directors, the designers, the illustrators. It was a little bit different back then. When we did storyboards, people literally had to ink them out and draw them on paper. And that's how we present storyboards at that time. So I'm hanging out with those guys and I'm like, this is my place. This is my space. These are my people. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Minor problem, not a designer, not a design major, not an art major. And by the way, the guy sitting across from me at the table who has the design internship came from LA and kicked my ass. I mean, when he set his portfolio down, it blew me away. Flew in from LA and was staying somewhere, I'm not even sure where. to work at this internship. So I was extremely intimidated by this. I didn't know how I was going to get from A to B, account executive, and I've got a year left of school. So at that time, I started dating an art director who worked at another agency, and he said, just stay after work. Because back then I certainly couldn't afford a Mac tower. We didn't have the laptops and things like that. So we worked on these really big machines that were very expensive. He said, just stay after work. So I would stay there from 9 to 5, clock out from my internship, go down to the production studio. And as soon as they left, I would sit down in one of their chairs, teach myself Photoshop, teach myself Illustrator, teach myself Quark, InDesign, all the different programs. And then I started asking the guys at work, these super, super talented creatives who have done some of the biggest campaigns in the world, can I sit next to you? I won't even ask questions. I won't annoy you. I won't bother you. I just want to see how you use these programs. I get the idea of Photoshop now, but wow, what are you doing with this? So great mentorship just comes from asking questions. And every single person I asked was so gracious and kind and said, yep, come on in. So I spent all summer doing the account executive job, staying maybe 5 or 6 to 11, 12 at night, every single night, except for Fridays, went home on Fridays. Enjoyed my weekends, still was in college. But I really took it to heart, busted my butt all summer, and signed up for, I think, 2 design classes, Noriko. I can't even tell you. I know that I was in design 1, and it was like, as a senior, I was in design 1, I think, with all freshmen. I'm like, yeah, guys, graduating here, but going to try to get a class in and try to make this happen. So I go in front of the Webster portfolio board, right? And this whole time I've been telling everyone and my teachers, I want to be an account executive. And at the end of the year, I still had to finish all my requirements. So I still graduated as a Marcom with advertising as my major. And I go in front of the portfolio review. There's design teachers in there. I don't know if you guys still do this the same way, but I had my Marcom teachers. There was a design, a PR teacher. So all the different disciplines were there. I don't know, Noriko, is that still how you guys do it? The portfolio review? Yeah. Okay. It was a little intimidating, but really, really good practice. And so I had one of the teachers tell me, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be an art director. Be an art director. Yep, I've got this. And she looked at my portfolio and she said, I'll never forget it. Art chooses you. You don't choose art. And clearly art has not chosen you. And I thought, oh my gosh, wow, I'm dead in the water here. Like, I literally having a teacher telling me, go back over there to account. Like, you did really well. You're graduating with honors. Why don't you just go ahead and focus there? And honestly, I will tell you, it was the exact push and drive I needed, because it only pushed me harder. It only made me want to prove to myself even more than her or anyone else, that I could do it, that I could make it in this field. And I got so many no's, and I encourage all of you, because you're going to get a lot of no's, to never give up and to keep trying and to keep pushing forward. Because I interviewed at every single advertising agency in St. Louis, all of them, including my precious DMB&B that I had my internships with. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a shoe in. They need somebody in the production department. I've just spent another internship with them. I did one my senior year with them again in the production department. I thought, I'm a shoe in. I love the production head anyway, and she loves me. And she called me one day and said, just wanted to let you know you didn't get the job. I'm like, oh, okay. She said, somebody applied and they have 2 year more experience than you do, because you don't have any experience really. And so experience won. And she said, keep going. Okay, keep going. So by September, still not having a job, interviewing at literally every single advertising agency that would take my call, getting a rejection at every single turn. But what did I do with those rejections? I used it to improve. So I would have one art director or creative director say, yeah, your book's, it's not there, but have you thought about taking this piece out and maybe doing this thing? Or maybe you need more logos, or maybe you need less logos. And every single piece of advice that I was given, even though I wasn't given the job, I took it to heart. So my book from the beginning of summer to the end of summer was a completely and utterly different book. And it was way, way better. And then over the summer, I just kept creating projects, just like, I had done over here. Is I'll just keep making stuff up. And eventually I decided to go for the gold, which was core. Core was this shining little sparkly diamond in St. Louis that was really respected and renowned worldwide. And so at this time, you know, the creative director's on the cover of Time magazine for being a bad boy, the bad boy of advertising. They were winning every single international award competition. This had gone on for years. So people in St. Louis either were jealous of them or loved them. It was one of the two. You loved them or you hated them. Nobody ever dared in my group to apply to CORE because they didn't hire ever. In fact, when I went up to CORE for the first time, when I called and said, "Can I leave my portfolio?" They're like, "Sure." And I opened the doors to the elevator and I almost turned around because the entire lobby was lined of portfolios, like 50, 100, I don't even know. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of the guy in LA again, who is this amazing designer. You know, I'm thinking that's all of those books right here, or like that guy that I worked with over the summer. But I didn't. I dropped my portfolio off and my cover letter. And I think it was my cover letter that got me hired because I know for sure it was not my book. What did I tell CORE? I did not tell them how awesome I was. I didn't tell them that my book was great or that I'm an amazing designer or have all these ambitions. I didn't do any of that because I knew there were people far more talented than I was, and their books were sitting right there too. What I asked them for was an opportunity. I told them I will clean the bathrooms, I'll mop the floors, I'll take out the trash. I don't care. Just let me in. Just let me in the room. I wanted to do what I did at DMB&B, which sit behind these guys. I think at that time there were 5 or 6 male designers. That's it. No females had ever worked as a designer at CORE. There was one copywriter ever that was female. So a lot of odds up against me. Again, it's like a 22-person place. It's not a whole lot of space. But why did I get hired? They told me exactly that I had checked my ego at the door. I was willing to shut my mouth, open my eyes and ears and learn. And that's what I did for 4.5 years. I learned from the best of the best. I had given an immense amount of responsibility. I got to travel. I got to learn how to sharpen my design skills. But more than that, I learned how to be a different person. I learned that taking risks in this world is what is necessary. And sometimes super uncomfortable because you have to get super, super comfortable with rejection. And I don't think people really talk to you enough about that. Is people love your ideas and they're going to hate them. They're going to love your work and they're going to hate it. They're going to say, this is the best campaign I've ever seen, or I'm going to fire you if you come back with something like this. And you can have those conversations, those same kind of very different conversations in the same day. It's kind of like a roller coaster ride. But it gave me confidence. It gave me the ability to present. You know, you're going in front of people that are CEOs, marketing leaders of very major corporations, and they're talked to all the time. So you're going in front of the CEO or the marketing director at Jack Daniels, and you're 24 years old and you're trying to sell your idea. You learn a whole lot in that time about being humble and watching the people around you who have done it for years and how to do it right. That was a tremendous period of growth for me. And in that time, I realized I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to bring the own clients on that I wanted to work with. And I was okay with working in a very small capacity. So I started my own design shop in 2003. That was really just to be design and advertising focused. I worked with other agencies across the country. I got to travel. I got to shoot big commercials. It was an amazing time in my life. And that led me all the way up to the point in time where I started working in special operations. I think what's so amazing about the creative arts is you can zig and zag in this world. From starting out as an account executive, working my way into being an art director or designer, working my way then into film and photography, and then working into a place that has nothing to do with any of it. So you would think, but every single thing that I have learned along the way has helped me in what I do today. Even just the fact of this. So when we started the nonprofit, everybody needs a logo, a website, some t-shirts, some branding, some materials. Guess who did it? Me. I was able to sit down and get to work on the nonprofit. I probably saved my company about $100,000, maybe more today by me doing the work. It is a tremendous asset to, and sometimes it can be a little bit of, it feels like a burden because you wear a lot of hats in this capacity. But you know, the things that, those are obvious. I designed my own book cover. I designed my husband's book cover. I still work in design, even though my day job really isn't requiring me to be a designer anymore. But even more than that, I have brought forward creative thinking, innovative thinking, problem solving. I'm able to present and share my ideas with other people in a very relaxed and easy way. I've done it 1,000 times. In fact, when we started public speaking, people had asked, "Oh, are you a trained public speaker?" And I said, "No, I came from advertising." And they don't understand what that means, but people in advertising do. You are constantly talking, presenting, sharing your ideas, trying to convince somebody to buy your ideas, trying to convince somebody not to throw your idea in the trash, and being okay with it that sometimes the client's right. And sometimes they know a little bit more about the brand, and being humble enough to go back to the drawing board, especially when you don't want to. It's just part of it. How you face rejection. My gosh, you have to grow a thick skin, and you will in this industry. And no matter what job you take or where you go in your life, all of these amazing skills that you're taught as a designer or in the creative arts can play a role in anything that you choose to do. Because my life, and I don't think very many, go in a very straight line. It goes all over the place. And what you think today might not be where you end up tomorrow. In fact, think about for a second what you wanted to be in grade school, like maybe 6th grade. You can even type it in. I'm curious. Like what did you want to be in 6th grade? Somewhere between 4th and 6th. I want to see. Noriko, what did you want to be?
I think I remember writing something about a medicine person. How do you say, like those people who make medicine, take care of the
like
medicine?
like a pharmacist? Or?
Yeah, I had no idea what it was, but I think I remember writing that.
And you didn't end up as a pharmacist, as I could tell. And in fact, it probably wasn't your major in college. I can imagine. No. So the idea there is a lot of, oh gosh, I keep hitting this mic. Sorry, guys. A lot of what you wanted to do back then might not match up with what you're doing now. And what you're doing now might not match up 10 or 15 years from now, what you want to do. And that's okay. Life is ever changing. It's evolving. And sometimes these no's, like I got all summer long when I was trying to get a job in advertising, and every single door was shutting. I didn't realize at that time, if I would have given up at that point, I would have never gotten the yes at core. That opened my world to so many opportunities, so many amazing experiences that I would have never had if I would have quit after the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I don't know how many times I was rejected that summer, 12, 15, 100. But I knew that this is what I wanted in this point. And I just encourage all of you to be brave enough to keep going forward with what you want, keep pushing forward, but also keep an open mind to other opportunities that might come to your door. Because creative arts will do that for you. It will open many doors, maybe in ways that you're not even thinking of right now. I've been talking a lot, and I really want to know if there's any questions that have come in. I've got my husband over here checking chat, because one of the things I'm not great is multitasking. So is there anything that's come up? Does anyone have any questions about any point in my career, life? Oh, you've got one.
From Jacob Stone. How did you keep drive when you were getting rejected so much?
How did I keep drive?
What kept you going when you could not see an end to the rejections?
So when I couldn't see to the end of the rejections, and like I said, I even had people in my life also encouraging me to stop, like my mom, like, hey, it's September now. You don't have a job yet. I think she just wanted me out of her house, but you know, maybe you should go back this direction or look at something entirely else. And I will tell you what, you guys, I had most of my friends quit that summer. A lot of them gave up on it. It was a very competitive market in St. Louis. I'm sure it is still to this day, but I know when I was stepping out in the late 90s, it was extremely competitive. People gave up. I will tell you, you've got this little voice inside your gut, and it's directing you, your instincts, it's telling you. And my instincts and that little voice was telling me not to give up. It was telling me to keep going forward, no matter what the voices around me were telling me, no matter what the rejection was showing. I just believed that if I kept pushing forward, I would get there. And I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to say rejection's fun. It's not. There are probably plenty of times I, came home completely deflated, maybe wanting to give up. But at the end of the day, I felt like if I can just make it better, if I can just keep pushing forward, I'll get there. And so you guys are going to get a lot of no's. Don't let it stop you. You'll find the right yes.
Another question
Oh, another question.
from Naba Yassir.
hmm
How did you find the courage to present work that you knew was not the best? How do you deal with perfectionism when creating work?
Presenting work that's not the best, and then also dealing with perfectionism. Um, gosh, I would say, my work wasn't always the best or always greatest, but what I was so fortunate and lucky is that I did have the best around me. So especially early in my career, I remember one time I had spent all weekend, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day up at Core. Nobody else was up there. It was in a scary building. You never knew if like a homeless person, a ghost or something was going to attack you when you were there. So I was like proud of myself for spending all weekend up at Core. And I did this illustration design. So the big boss, Eric, didn't know how to use Illustrator. So again, here's a hole. I can learn this. And then Eric had me sit with him more often. Hey, do this, do this. So hey, go do some idea for Grand Center, right? And I did this illustration. It took me all weekend. And I thought it was okay, right? I wasn't really done, but I was just going to throw it in front of them anyway. And that taught me the lesson to never show somebody work that you're not happy with, because even I couldn't talk my way back out of it, frankly, because I'm like, it's not done yet. And I'm still going to add this and I want to change it. And he killed it. No, I don't like it. It's not right. Start over. And so at that point, I didn't really show things again that I didn't stand behind. If I was working for a client I didn't really like, that's just part of it too. There were some clients that I wasn't crazy about. They paid the bills. That's fine. You will find your passion projects and you will find the ones that will help you eat. Perfectionism, I think that comes hand in hand with this world a lot. Noriko, gosh, she's tough. A tough critic too, but we talked a lot about design at Core and we spent a lot of time looking at the wall. And I wanted to get it right and she wanted to get it right and everyone around me wanted to get it right. So I think you have to have a healthy balance for your home life as well and know, hey, I need to balance work and home. That'll come for you guys probably a little bit later. But just know if you work someplace and you've got good people around you, they're going to help you create good work. And also tell you when to stop.
Ryan Elliott.
Yes.
How did you manage all of the responsibilities of running your own agency, balancing your book of business while seeking new clients, while taking care of yourself?
Well, that's a great question. So how did I balance, was it starting a
How
business,
did you manage the
clients?
responsibilities of running your own agency, balancing your book of business while seeking new clients and taking care of yourself?
It was tough. It was tough, especially in 2004. I was married, I got pregnant. I wanted to wait a few years before I had a child starting this new business, but it didn't turn out that way. So I literally had a boppy, which is like a pillow you put your baby on, and I would nurse my son, work on a logo, taking a phone call, multitasking. It was nuts. I didn't sleep very much. I didn't learn balance early on. So I really did kind of had burnout early on because I was working probably 16 hours a day, sleep a couple hours. And then I started bringing help on, and that really changed my life is when I started adding additional team members to help me with new business prospects. I brought on a lot of creative partners, so they would bring me business and opportunities. Once I started partnering with a lot of other copywriters in St. Louis. So I was getting new business from agencies as a freelancer. I was getting them from other opportunities from other creatives who were freelancing and bringing it into me. And then once you start that and you kind of get your momentum going in town, you'll find that work will come to you more easily. And I know that's sort of what had happened with me, is less new business and was more trying to stay afloat with the clients that I did have coming in.
Tyler Stallings, can you tell us a little more about your nonprofit and the work you're doing? And are there any strategies you've learned regarding mental health and balancing work and life that would translate for students?
Great question too. So the nonprofit that my husband and I co-founded, we do resources education. So we will go to bases and posts all around the country. And we talk to soldiers who haven't even deployed yet. They haven't even gone into combat yet. And we talk to them about some of the things that could be coming down the road for them, some of the trauma and the effects of it. So that's the education piece that we do. Then we work with the spouses and kind of explain this is the behavior that might be coming home with the war, and how to deal and cope with that. We have workshop retreats for couples. So they come to Missouri. Actually, we hold those right here, right outside Branson and Big Cedar. And they do an intensive 4-day workshop on how to come back together post deployments. And then we also do every single day counseling. So we have an amazing counselor and therapist who works individually or with couples on rebuilding the foundation of the relationship. So we stay really busy. We even do lobbying. We're going to Pentagon next week. We were at the White House about 3 months ago. So we do everything we can to help change this narrative, there's roughly about 8,300 to 9,000 suicides every single year in our military community. So it's a really big problem. And it's going to take a lot of us coming together to figure this out. But how did I balance again when I started this out and I was wearing all the hats not so well? You do get burnout if you don't pay attention, and what that looks like can be something like losing interest in doing things that you normally used to do, hanging out with friends, not having that kind of interest, not having the energy for it, losing interest in things that you typically love to do, or just feeling depressed, down, anxiety. And so anytime you're getting those indicators, that you have to pay super close attention to those. Don't shove it under the rug. Don't say I'll deal with it later, because it'll get worse. What we've learned through trauma and high stress, the more you ignore it, the worse it gets. So I want to encourage all of you to start taking care of yourselves right now. When you notice that you're going to get stressed out, any career, you're going to get stressed out. When you're getting vulnerable and you're presenting your work, you're going to have a lot of sleepless nights like I did too. It's just part of it, but you have to pay super close attention to any changes that you're experiencing in your mental health and address them immediately. In fact, if you go to allsecurefoundation.org, which is my nonprofit, there's tools and tips and things there as well, but definitely take an active role and do it immediately if you start noticing signs.
One comment and then a really good question. Comment from Kristen Dunlap. Your grand center work turned out great in the end.
Oh, Kristen,
And your
Grand
next
Center.
Question. So this is
Lord.
a question from a professor of advertising and marketing communication professor at Webster. So there's no pressure here.
Okay, no pressure.
Would you say
Teacher
that your
question.
career journey would have been easier and more successful if you were to have had a design degree rather than advertising and marketing communication degree?
Do I feel like it would have been easier?
Yes. Your career journey would have been easier and more successful if you were to have had that degree rather than another degree.
That's a great question. And you know what? I don't really know if I would have had a design degree versus a Marcom degree, would I have gotten further? Probably. I mean, I had a lot of rejection early on because I didn't have a design degree. I didn't come into the world of wanting to be an art director with really anything to show. I think if I had a stronger book, I probably would have got hired at one of those first 15 places I tried. But then again, I wouldn't have gotten hired at Core. So all of those rejections led me to the right place.
From Nermina Furkic, question from Lauren Siegler.
Okay.
How do you avoid burnout if the workload does not let up?
How do you avoid burnout if the workload doesn't let up? You have to take control of your own path. You have to get good at saying no. You don't have to take every project. I think early on, I felt like anything and any opportunity that came to me, I felt like I had to take, otherwise I would miss out on something or For some reason, clients would just dry up. If I said no to one, for some reason, they'd all go away or something. That's not true. You have to have a healthy balance, and you have to know what your limit is. And it's going to be different for every person here, how much they can take on and how much they want to take on. If you notice you're at a place where you feel burnout, I've been there, you have got to step back and assess and say, what are the most important things in my life right now? What are the most important key clients that I need to keep? Because some of the ones that you'll need to keep might not even be the ones you want to keep at first. Again, like I had some clients that paid really big bills that were okay. And then I had some that paid little tiny bills that I absolutely loved. But it's balancing that, right? It's finding that balance between the ones that are going to pay and your passion projects. Sometimes you're going to have to let passion projects go. Sometimes you're going to have to say no to a big check. But you will need to find that balance. Yes, sir. Oh, are we at time? Noriko, I know I'm trying to watch time because I know I don't want to get anybody in trouble here, late to class or something. I remember that.
Maybe for 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, we're good.
Okay.
What are some of the things that keep you motivated or remind you why you need to keep going when it gets hard? Same person.
Motivated. What keeps me motivated and going when things get hard? Whew, I think I developed a really strong work ethic when I was young. I was one of those people. I started working when I was 12. Had a job up the street when I was 15. So I always kind of enjoyed working and going. But you know, motivation's tricky because if you wait to be motivated, you'll get nothing done. That's like when people say, I'm going to wait, I'm going to work out when I get motivated. I'm like, so you're never going to work out because you're never going to feel like it. You have to do things sometimes and push through, even when you don't want to do it, even when it seems like it stinks and you need to power through it. There will be some things in your life. Like I had just heard a statistic that your dream job, even if it's the perfect thing that you've wanted, you're writing it down on your sheet here at Webster saying, this is exactly the dream job I want. This is how I imagine it going. You'll only enjoy that job 70% of the time. 30% of it you won't like. 30% of it you're going to have to push through. And that's what they're saying statistically is your dream job. So you're never going to be 100% happy in anything you do. You're going to have to push through the muck. And I think what gets me through is I loved it. I loved being an art director. I loved being a designer. I identified it, became part of my ego and personality. So maybe there was a little bit of that pushing me as well, especially when I was young and cocky.
Two more.
I enjoyed it though.
Two more so far. First from Austin Gertman. I know business is tough, especially in arts, but if there is a company we're interested in working for and was rejected the first time, when do you know to go back? When do you know to back off or be persistent? Is it offering new material and improving, or when do you know your limit?
That's a great question. When do you know your limit? So you've gotten a rejection. I got many of them. In fact, Rogers Townsend was an agency I really wanted to work at as well. And my first time I went up there, I had my terrible brand new book. And it was only slightly less terrible by the end of summer, but I did go up with my first portfolio. I was immediately rejected. And as I made improvements over the summer, I guess it was maybe in that August timeframe, I had called them again. I said, listen, I worked all summer on my portfolio. I wasn't even asking for a job. And that's another key thing too, is if you're asking people for information, if you're asking them just to look at your book, people will be happy to do that. If you call and say, I'm looking for a job, you might get an immediate no. So with Rogers Townsend, all I said was, I didn't call back and say, hey, can you hire me? I want to show you my book again. I said, I've been working all summer. I've done some of the improvements that you've asked me to make. Is there any way I can come in sometime when you have some time, just so I can get your feedback again? That led to 3 more interviews. I didn't get hired there, but because I had improved so much and because I worked and I showed him that I was willing to put in the work, that it led to several other interviews. So I wouldn't go back. One good thing to do would be just to do that, maybe do some improvements, do some more work, and just go back and say, hey, I really love your company. I'd really love to be part of it. However, at this time, I'm just asking for some additional feedback. That might open some doors.
One more here.
Okay.
From Ashley Webelhuth. The amount of perseverance you've had throughout your journey is amazing. To Jacob and Naba's note about rejection and perfectionism, failing doesn't seem to be part of your vocabulary. what advice do you have for students who might fear throwing caution to the wind and taking risks without knowing what the outcome will be?
Ooh, risk taking. Risk taking. I wouldn't be anywhere without taking risks because everything I've done was against the odds. Even I was a tour guide at Anheuser-Busch in the summer. I think again, there was thousands of people applied for it. Just go for everything. I mean, you're going to get rejected all the time. Get comfortable with it. And when you get comfortable with rejection, you'll do more, you'll risk more because, for me, did I die when Rogers Townsend said, we're not going to hire you? No. Did I lose my friends and family? No. Did I become homeless? No, nothing bad happened to me. I just got to know. Get comfortable with the no, because you're going to hear it a lot. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't take the risks. You have got to run towards that cliff and jump. You have to. You're not going to know where you're going to land, but you're never going to fly if you don't. So you have to get good at taking risks. And hey, you guys are creatives. You take risks every day. That's part of what you do in creating. Trying to be mindful on time too.
Yep. I think this is it. That was the last
That's
question. Yep.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Jenn, for joining us. And it was so good to see you and hear your journey. And I know I haven't hung out with you, for a
Been a
long
while.
time. But I always watch, I always see your Facebook posts and social media, and I'm so proud of you, how much work you have done. And I look up to you. And thank you for all the advice that you have given me and to our student today. So thank you.
Thank you so
Jen.
much. It's so great to be back at Webster. Yay. Thank you,
All
guys.
right.
Have a good Friday.
Okay.
Bye, Kristen. Bye, Noriko.
Bye, Kristen.